could lead into an interesting late stages of the game if Eric gets too far ahead and Jon is not able to attack Eric's hand with it.
Well, I guess we'll have to see how this match plays out for both of our players here. We're jumping into Swiss Round 5 here, Knoxville Regional Championship, and we're starting over on Eric's side of the field. Going into the deck here, first off with this Battle VIP pass to get some more Pokemon out, start establishing a board here for Eric, and also, of course, gonna check the hand a couple of times, see what is potentially prized. Probably gonna notice real quick that Morpeko is in the prize cards. But what do you think we're gonna see on this initial first turn here from Eric, Pablo?
Eric's definitely going to want to stabilize or establish a solid board. In this matchup, you usually want to go, either player wants to go second, so Jon probably won the coin flip and chose to do so. Eric wants to have like a little bit of energy in play, get a solid hand going to be able to threaten any possible Giratina Vs that Jon ends up benching, because taking one prize card doesn't really help too much. In an ideal situation, you want to go like 2-2-2 in terms of prize cards, if possible, right? That's easier said than done for sure.
Yeah, that's true. You want as optimal of a prize layout as you can, or I guess prize mapping in the match, but I guess you could take what you can get at some points in time as well. As we see here from Eric, taking out a lot of Pokemon here, establishing the bench. We're going to see once again that Galarian Moltres that actually had a ton of utility in our former Roaring Moon deck that we just saw from Evan Campbell.
Yeah, Galarian Moltres V is definitely a key aspect of this deck. It gives you very nice energy acceleration throughout the game, allowing you to energy switch those energies away that you get from the ability in order to power up those Roaring Moons. So Dire Flame Wings, very crucial to this deck, and I do believe Eric is running Ross Cotton's exact 60 cards, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
So definitely a deck that got really popular from this past weekend.
Yep, and we just saw that ability Dire Flame Wings in action there from that Moltres, getting that energy out of the discard pile, switching it onto that Roaring Moon EX in the active here, and we are rolling now. We saw the Squawk and Seize, Squawkin' Season, and now we're just drawing into even more cards here. 2 energy from that Earthen Vessel, discarding that Battle VIP pass.
Yeah, it always feels very nice when on turn 1 you can afford to even discard your Battle VIP pass, right? That shows how strong your hand was.
Not much bench space left, huh?
Yeah.
Just one spot.
Indeed, which can be very crucial as well. Yeah, that could be a 3rd Roaring Moon to help threaten. It could also be a Mew EX to help battle that late game Roxanne. Ideally, you'd want the Morpeko, but unfortunately, that is priced right now.
Currently in the prize cards, but Eric has done a pretty solid job here on this first turn. We're going to see 1 Dark Patch, 2 of them in the prize cards, but 1 was in the hand, and it's going to bring out another energy onto the bench. Roaring Moon here, 2 already on the active for that very first turn. Let's see what Jon Eng can establish here on his first turn, starting off with just a concealed cards, discarding an energy. What is the hand looking like, Pablo? Is it bad?
Yeah, it's not looking great. Jon doesn't have any sort of Com Phase or Battle VIP pass. He did get a Pokegear off of this Greninja, but really needs to find a Colress last card.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Jon Eng giving us a show here, that Colress's Experiment just popping up. And that is going to lead Jon to hopefully some better options off the next 5 cards that he'll get to look at with that. And of course, establishing that Lost Zone.
Yep, getting those cards in Lost Zone going to be very crucial. An ideal world, Jon would love to hit the Roaring Moon active with the Cramorant, but right now he just really needs to have a more solid board. And decent cards, but no Battle VIP pass. So he'll establish a board, but Eric is already threatening that Giratina V if it does get benched, which Jon might choose not to.
Well, we're going to see that Colress's Experiment. 2 cards go into the Lost Zone. Jet Energy placed onto the Comfey that's on the bench, which of course is going to accelerate it into the active position, allowing for the first flower selecting. It was a quick choice there. Mirage Gate going into the Lost Zone. Into the next Comfey. What are the 2 options here, Pablo?
Colress and Nestball. So difficult choice, because with the Nestball you could establish potentially a second Giratina, but with the Colress you have that draw for next turn as long as Iono or Judge doesn't get played. So tough choice right there. Jon does decide to go for the Colress, and as long as he doesn't bench the Giratina V, he'll be fine in terms of the price mapping. Won't allow Eric to take 2-2-2 prices. Will force Eric to essentially play a 7-price game almost.
Yep, so we could be here for a bit, Pablo, potentially in this match, or not, depending on how the rest of these draws go. But Jon Eng is going to decide to bench that Giratina V. What do you think about that?
All right. I mean, Eric does need Energy, Stadium, and Boss's Orders to chase that down, which we did see the top deck of the Pokestop, so calculated risk. Jon perhaps feels that he really needs to take risks right now because his setup was very mediocre in this first turn, unfortunately for him.
Well, that Pokestop's going to be rolled here, netting Eric 2 item cards and a Pokestop going into the discard pile. Forest Sealstone is going to come down onto this Galarian Moltres V, which is going to allow Eric to go into the deck and choose any card out and put it in your hand.
Yeah, now I'm a little surprised on Eric's decision to use the Pokestop before the Forest Sealstone, as he sort of risked perhaps, like, the chance of you discarding one or both Boss's Orders is definitely low, but if you just get that out of the deck, you guarantee that you're not going to discard it. Pokestop can't find the Boss's Orders, right? So you might as well guarantee that, and there's a knockout on the Giratina V to start us off.
Just as you said here, Pablo, that Giratina V was a liability, and now it is getting knocked out here by Eric. Wow, so going down there with that Calamity Storm, discarding that Pokestop as well. And now it's back over to Jon Eng. So I guess if you're in Jon Eng's position, where do you go from here, Pablo? You're now behind on prize cards. You already had a shaky first hand, and you're kind of on the back foot here.
Yeah, your best response is really Cramorant hit once again, and in an ideal world, you want to bench 2 Giratina Vs at once to prevent exactly what just happened. If one goes down, you still have the other one to potentially respond, but Jon not finding a lot of help. Does find the Cramorant. The path to peak is nice, but it's stopping Dire Flame Wings, and that's pretty much it. You want to find that earlier, so not the best setup for Jon. Has a lot of really good cards in his hand, but just doesn't have the resources in play to utilize them.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Just a weird drawing of the cards here for Jon Eng. We're going to see that concealed cards drawing into 2 more, and we're just going to take a quick look here at Eric's discard pile as well for Jon. At this point in time, Jon just needs to keep up as much pace as he can at the moment. We're seeing a Flower selecting Giratina V versus that Psychic Energy going to be chosen to jump into the Lost Zone here. And now we're just going aggro. Giratina V's flying down onto the bench here for Jon Eng, and we have 7 cards in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, we could see some sort of shred damage here right now. Could be pretty decent. Now, I don't think Jon is running a Lost Vacuum, so the Ancient Energy Booster Capsule on the Roaring Moon does put it at 290 HP, which is problematic because Lost Impact turns out does 280. So this damage from Cramorant going to be very key.
Yep, and that's exactly what we're going to see here. This Cramorant softening up this Roaring Moon EX that's inactive here for Eric. Of course, being able to hit for no energy due to that lost provisions, as long as you have 4 more prize cards in, 4 more cards in your Lost Zone. Cramorant's able to use that and get that super needed damage there onto that Roaring Moon. Eric kicking off this turn as well. We're going to see a concealed cards here, drawing into an energy switch and a switch cards.
Yep, both useful cards, though not as crucial at this point in time. Eric really wants to establish this other Roaring Moon, have it ready to deal with the upcoming Giratina V-Star. So no supporter though, so off to a strong start. Or maybe I see an Iono. With all these arts, it's difficult to tell sometimes.
I know. There's so many different ones.
Yeah, there is an Iono.
Yeah, there is an Iono there. Research an Iono as the supporters in hand currently for Eric. We're going to see another Pokestop. That's nothing. A Dark Patch and an Ultra Ball here.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good Pokestop. Gets the energy in the discard pile, gives you the Dark Patch to immediately attach it, and you have the Stadium now to knock out the Cramorant. And ideally, you want another boss, right? But that's going to be really difficult for Eric to find here.
Yeah.
So he will only be able to take one prize card, which is not bad, but you definitely would love to go after one of these two Giratinas if you could.
Yeah, keep up as much aggression as possible. Avoid the one prizers, head for the two prizers, and continue this pace. That's what Eric is looking to do. We're still going through the deck here for Eric, and we're going to see a roll. It's going to be a tails.
What was the roll for?
That's what I was
never mind. There are 4 Pokemon Catcher in this list, so it must have been that. It's just, there was a Professor Seda played out of the
Yep, it was
camera.
a catcher.
Then it was a Pokemon Catcher.
It's tough when the discard pile's off cam
Yeah.
for us to see, whoa, we're seeing a roll. Yeah, Pokemon Catcher. It did not hit, unfortunately, there, but hey, we have plenty more in the list where that comes from. Palpad going to retrieve 2 supporters here back out of the discard pile, shuffled into the deck here for Eric.
Yep, Boss and Professor Seda, both very good and crucial cards. And yeah, so I was mistaken. This is not Roscoffin 60. It's actually, it includes the 4 Pokemon Catcher to be able to be aggressive with the Professor's Research and with the ghosting effects as well. But it does come at a price, right? That coin flip, sometimes it will go your way, sometimes it won't. Sometimes the game can come down to that Pokemon Catcher coin flip, as we saw 2 weeks ago in top 4 with Miraidon. They went Peony, double Pokemon Catcher. That was really cool to see.
Yep, some awesome plays here in our Pokemon Regional Championships. Eric here also jumbling up that dice there. Oh, that is too good.
So Eric gonna be 3 prizes ahead, still 2 attacks away essentially from potentially winning the game. Jon, of course, will be able to now take a knockout on this Roaring Moon and then looking to target down the benched one. So it's on Eric to really try to find the setup on a 3rd attacker. And one of those attackers to have an easier knockout could be the Mew EX, copying the Lost Impact.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, some people just have it in their decks for the restart ability, but you also have that genome hacking move as well off of that Mew. So we'll have to see where Eric chooses to go. Right now, we're on Jon Eng's side of the field. After that Cramorant went down, Jon Eng still 6 prize cards left to take here, but plenty more to do on this turn. Tons of cards in hand here at the moment, and we're seeing a Mirage Gate drawing out that water and psychic energy for Jon's field.
Yep, probably double checking all the energies in the prizes, in the Lost Zone, and discard. There's just so much to keep track of with this deck, but I really like using that Mirage Gate before any sort of flower selecting or Colress experiment, as that way you're not going to see those energies at the top which you need, and you're more likely to find potentially better resources.
Yeah, I also have to feel Jon Eng is one of the very notable players who rocks Giratina V-Star quite often here. Everybody thinks of Jon Eng when they think of Giratina. So yeah, he knows this deck inside and out and knows exactly what he needs to be keeping track of and keeping on pace with as far as these matchups go. Flower selecting, gonna discard a Battle VIP pass. What was was it just a Battle?
It was
okay.
Battle VIP pass and Poke Gear into the Colress once again. So Jon Eng like barely getting there, it feels, most turns, but now he'll be able.
There,
getting there, and will now be able to get to 10 cards in the Lost Zone after a Colress. The V-Star will be available for that Giratina V-Star in case he chooses to do that, and does have a counter catcher in hand, so could go after the non-damaged Roaring Moon, which could be a really cool play.
That would be awesome to see here from Jon Eng, stacking up that Lost Zone here. Now 10 cards. We're going to see those evolutions come out onto the Giratina Vs, turning into Giratina V-Stars. And Jon Eng is rocking and rolling here for the turn. We have the energy attachment here, that grass energy, onto the Giratina V-Star on bench.
Yep, there's the attachment. I see he has the counter catcher and the switch card in front of his hand, which usually is an indicator that he's going to be playing down those cards. Now, it doesn't have a great follow-up after this, but I do think he needs to target down this Roaring Moon so that if Eric wants to knock out the Giratina V-Star in return with this Roaring Moon, they will both be knocked out, as Frenzied Gouging will knock the Roaring Moon itself.
Yeah, that is true. Well, Jon Eng does have the possibility to still do that, as you said, with that counter catcher being behind in those prize cards. The availability is there for Jon Eng, but first we're going to see another flower selecting the deck thinning out even more. It looks like a tough decision here.
Yeah, it's between Colress and Boss's Orders, both cards which are very useful as the game goes on, right?
Yeah.
If Eric plays any sort of hand attack, Jon would like to keep the Colress, and that's what he did, but if he needs to chase down more Roaring Moons on the bench or prevent Eric from stalling a turn with Greninja in the active, the Boss's Orders is a great card, right? So
Yeah,
tough choice for Jon. Does decide to keep the Colress, and now do we counter Catcher or not?
Yep, that is the question here, Pablo. That late game Boss's Orders into the last zone here. Path to the Peak is also going to come out into play as well, shutting down, as you said before, that Dire Flame Wings on that Galarian Moltres V.
Yeah, and Eric has lost a few stadiums into a discard pile after using them for the attack. And yeah, there we see Counter Catcher onto the Clean Roaring Moon for a knockout with the B-Star.
Yep, not exactly what Eric wants to see. This Roaring Moon that he spent so much time preparing, a fresh, non-damage Roaring Moon knocked out in one fail swoop here from Jon Eng, taking 2 prize cards there off of that, and Eric having to respond here, starting off with an Ultra Ball, discarding that Galarian Moltres as well as a Forest Seal Stone.
Yeah, Eric does have the perfect response here in his hand. He can go grab a fresh Roaring Moon, has double Dark Patch and Darkness Energy ready to go. So Jon's not going to be happy after he sees that. Eric will be down to 1 prize card. And, I mean, we could potentially see a tiebreaker game if Jon ends up knocking out this fresh Roaring Moon with another Giratina V-Star. And I don't know, this could be a weird ending to this game for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it's already been kind of wacky with some of the draws and such that Jon Eng was getting. And yeah, we could have a pretty wacky ending potentially here coming up, but we'll have to see what else happens throughout this game. Eric gonna get these energy out onto this benched Roaring Moon. Another one, fully established. One's gone, and one just pops back up. They're like roaches, right, Pablo?
They are indeed like roaches. They just come out of nowhere. You never see them coming. And then we see the Iono as well combined with this clean KO.
Goodness.
So that Colress that Jon very carefully protected is now at the bottom of the deck.
Absolutely correct there. And honestly, there was a ton of resources in the hand as well. Now Jon Eng only working with 4 cards here, taking a knockout as well. Eric knocking out that Giratina V-Star, going down, as you said, to just 1 prize card left. And Jon Eng starting off with a Flower selecting, making this decision now.
Yep.
Oh, just going to scoop it up. I guess that's what he's going to decide here, Pablo.
Yep, I have a feeling Jon might have been like either out of energies, because I did see he got a Grass and a Mirage Gate off the 4-card Iono. His choice was between Jet Energy and Roxanne, but he might have been out of Psychic Energies to just return the hit, or maybe wanted to do it with Cramorant, probably not. I don't know. It was definitely a tough ending there for Jon. Since the beginning, he was just struggling to have a decent board setup.
Yeah, kind of awkward setup in the beginning, and like we said, he was just kind of hanging on by a thread. And of course, that early knockout on that Giratina V by Eric was huge there, getting the lead on the prize cards, putting Jon Eng on the back burner, tried to pick things back up with that Cramorant, doing some damage there to that Roaring Moon, but it just could not be kept up with and picked up on the back end by Jon Eng.
Yeah, Jon would have loved to have these 2 Giratina V-Stars that he was able to set up in turn 3, but on turn 2, then we would have been talking about a completely different game, but Eric was able to take down that first Giratina V, and with Jon having no response after that, was forced to scoop up after nothing really found off of the Comfey. And with 32 minutes left, I feel like both decks apply a lot of pressure. They might like take a little bit slow in the beginning, in the first 2 turns, but after that it's just go boom, boom, boom every turn, right? So I think 32 minutes should be enough to get a full 3-game set.
Yeah, and I'm sure Eric taking a win here in our game 1 between these players. I'm sure feeling very nice. Of course, facing off against a regional champion who is well known for playing this deck. Maybe a little nerves there, but handling it extraordinarily well. And we're going to jump into this game 2 here between these players, again starting on Eric's side of the field here. And of course, this was our community choice pick as well. So definitely let us know in the chat how you're liking this matchup so far. Who are you rooting for?
Now, we did see 2 Psychic Energy prize for Jon, so that could be a little problematic once again for those late game Mirage Gates. Will apply a lot of pressure on the Subrots, but one key thing that we are seeing right now is the Spiritomb start. This Spiritomb shuts down Galarian Moltres V's ability, and that means Eric will not have that like free energy every turn thanks to Dire Flame Wings. So it's gonna be a little awkward for Eric to try to power up Pokemon in the later stages of the game, because now you rely on the Dark Patches and that's it. Unless Eric is able to KO the Spiritomb next turn, that could, in the late game, affect him quite a bit.
Yeah, that could get super sticky, and it was the starting Pokemon here from Jon Eng, so that's definitely something that comes into play going into this game 2 here for Eric. We saw the Pokestop getting rolled here for Eric, and that's going to lead us into a Battle VIP pass as well.
Yeah, fantastic find for Eric. Otherwise would have needed to Ultra Ball for the Squawk ability, which I imagine will be the other choice here off the Battle VIP pass. Just gives him a little bit more wiggle room in terms of what he can pick, get a fresh hand, off to the races, but that Spiritomb, that Spiritomb really could put a dent, because Eric's deck is built around Moltres and Energy Switch to power up multiple Roaring Moons. There are 2 copies of Professor Zeta's Vitality, but they are not as vital usually.
Yeah, not as vital. That Spiritomb shutting down any basic Pokemon V that have abilities. So all of those basics with abilities that are Vs going to be shut down. Tough to deal with. Of course, Mew is not a V. It's an EX.
Yeah. Interesting that Eric chose not to go for the Squawk this turn. I guess he felt comfortable enough with his hand in order to be able to take a KO here. And then Jon starting off strong with a Colress, but not great finds, I think.
Yeah, let's take a look. We have the Path to the Peak, a Water Energy here off of this Colress. Didn't see the other 3.
Yeah, those are probably the cards getting lost. So
yeah,
looking
3 to
for
the hands.
All right, we do get a Battle VIP pass. We do get a Convey. All right, so off to a decent start here. The question is, do you go for a Convey and a Giratina to establish the 2 Giratinas already on the board? Do you go for a Greninja to draw a few extra cards?
Yep, we're going to start with this flower selecting here for Jon. Ooh, it's going to be a Path to the Peak and another Battle VIP pass. Jon is also going to take a glance at the hand here before deciding which card to go with out of these 2 options.
I would really like to see Jon keep the Battle VIP pass here. I feel like he
Go
lost
consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He lost the previous game because he didn't have a strong enough setup. And now with double Battle VIP pass, you're going to have everything you could possibly want on the bench, which is very crucial. And there is only 1 Path to the Peak left for Jon, so you want to make sure you save that to combine with Roxanne to shut down the Mew EX's ability.
Yeah, I feel like every time we see our players have to make this difficult decision, choosing consistency is always a safe bet here, and that's what Jon Eng is going to go with. Battle VIP Pass being the pick, the Path to the Peak going into the Lost Zone, taking that Lost Zone up to 3 cards now, and of course still making this decision on who to bring out onto the bench here from the Battle VIP Pass. It's going to be another Comfey and that Giratina V.
Yep, so now that means there will be 2 Giratinas on the bench at the end of this turn. Jon will go ahead and take the time to price check, probably going to realize that he priced 2 Psychic Energies just by the look on his face. I think he realized, like, oh my gosh, not again.
Not again, yeah. Oh, you hate to see it, especially if you're Jon Eng at this moment in time. But here we go, second Battle VIP pass. Jon, the VIP, swiping his badge here into 2 more Pokemon able to be brought out onto this bench.
Yeah, now Jon will probably grab Giratina and Cramorant with this one, even though he's already holding 1 Giratina V in his hand. That will allow him to thin the deck a little bit, right? And it's only 1 extra card. His deck is probably around 35 cards right now, a little more, a little less, but every card you get out of the deck, every card you thin right now is helping you in the future. And that's something very key for Lost Box decks. You want to thin your deck, you want to leave only the good resources, the ones you think you'll need to finish out a game. And every little percentage matters, because as the game goes on, those little percentages definitely add up.
Absolutely correct, Pablo. I think that is a skill that we see often displayed by our pro players, our players that we see on the circuit consistently at these regional championships all of the time. Something that they display very well and something you should definitely pick up as a player if you are not already thinking about what cards to thin out here. And speaking of thinning some more cards out, Flower Selecting is going to add a Comfey into the Lost Zone, ticking that up to 4. Cramorant is now online there with that Lost Provisions.
Yeah, that now we could see a Spit innocently onto the Mew, which sets it up very nicely for a future Sableye KO for 2 prizes, which would be very nice. Now, one bad thing about Jon's current hand is that there's no follow-up to this. There's no Colress, and he's holding 3 Grass Energy. That's only Grass Energy in his deck, so that could make it awkward for him to Mirage Gate later down the line.
Yep, exactly. Mirage Gate has to come out of the deck, and if they're all in your hands, you don't really have an option there.
Yep.
But Cramorant going to Spit innocently, Spit on that Mew that's flying in the air there on Eric's side of the field.
Ooh.
Eric going to start this turn off with that concealed cards drawing into I think it was the Dark Patch and then Earthen Vessel as well. Going to use that Dark Patch right away here and get that energy onto the benched Roaring Moon EX.
Now, part of why I was really surprised Eric didn't go for the Squawk is because he does have Professor's Research right now to just dig deeper, but he's going to have to rely on Pokemon Catcher if he wants to go after either of these Giratinas, right? Where if we had seen the Squawk earlier, it is a liability on the bench that you have, of course. However, it gives you the opportunity to dig deeper to maybe find boss and guarantee the ghosting instead of trying to flip heads on Pokemon Catcher, which with 4, you're going to average 2, right? But you could also get 0, or you could get 4. That's the beauty of the game we play.
That is true, Pablo. Ultra Ball going to discard an Energy Switch as well as a Pokestop here for Eric to go into the deck for any Pokemon that he wants to thin out here. And then I think is there only 1 card left in the hand?
I believe so. It's the Professor's Research, so will we see a high 5?
Oh, I love to see the high 5s, but you never know with our players. We shall see.
Definitely on stream, people tend to be a little more serious, right?
That's true, yeah. Or I don't know. Sometimes it goes either way. It's like you're just having fun, giving us a show, or you're focused in for
Locked
Eric.
in,
yeah, exactly. Having to battle against Jon Eng here and up 1 game already, just wanting to take this home with a 2-0. It's just going to be the Professor's Research. Unfortunately, no high 5 there.
Yeah, now, some players might be wondering why the Galarian Moltres was grabbed, even though its ability doesn't work right now because of Spiritomb. However, it is still a good target for, or the only target rather, for the Forest Heal Stone, right?
Yeah.
Which gets Eric any card he wants at any point in the game. So that's still very crucial to have available to you. Can't Dark Patch and Earthen Vessel, however, need to grab that energy.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah, Dark Patch going to get another energy. Honestly, it's going to be a heads here for Eric off of that Pokemon Catcher. Where's Wancho behind the scenes, I'm sure, cheering on these Pokemon Catchers as Eric utilizes that card, luckily getting a heads. Gusting that Pokemon, and we're rolling as well off that Pokestop. Gonna net 2 items here for Eric, and that Giratina V is now in the active spot.
Losing that ancient booster energy capsule of the Pokestop, probably not that big a deal overall. However, because he has the emergency jelly, if at any point he wasn't able to leave the Roaring Moon with 90 HP left instead of 30, then Sableye could potentially clean up 4 prizes with that Mew being damaged. But so far so good for Eric, gets the first 2 prize cards. Jon now needs to find another Giratina and take the knockout on the active, which is going to be very difficult because of that ancient booster capsule.
Yeah, we're seeing a similar trend here from the last game going into our second game here for Eric, getting that knockout, that early knockout, first 2 prize cards here on that Giratina V, now leading in the prize cards, and all of that with the Galarian Moltres being shut down as well. So we see so much utility from that, but Eric hasn't even gotten a chance to use it. Dark Patches coming out of the woodwork left and right here for Eric to establish all of these energy on board, leading to that knockout and, of course, that lucky Pokemon Catcher. And Jon Eng, unfortunately, is kind of in the same position here, working off the back foot, but I think a much better board state than we saw in our previous game between these players.
Much better board state, but much worse hand too, unfortunately.
No.
This flower selecting is going to be pretty big, and
What is
Jet
it?
Energy and something else I didn't catch. Giratina V-Star, but no Colress, no Mirage Gate, no nothing. Yeah, so it's just going to be another spit innocently here for Jon.
Well, I mean, I guess at least, you know, we're spitting. You know,
Yeah.
at least something is happening on the boards. But yeah, that's definitely not what you wanted to see here from Jon Eng. If the hand is weak, I mean, your hand is everything when you're playing a Lost Box variant deck, and unfortunately, Jon does not have a lot to work with here. Eric gonna start us off rolling that Pokestop. Discard, discard. Gonna at least, yeah, get one card there off that Pokestop, that Earthen Vessel there, but 2 supporters down now.
Yeah, Eric is holding that Forest Seal Stone, so we'll be able to grab a Boss's Orders directly thanks to that Galarian Moltres V and take down another Giratina. And I think that might put Jon in a position where how do you make a comeback? Yeah, at any point your Giratina V-Star takes a knockout, it just gets Frenzied Gouging back,
Yeah.
and that's it. So Eric definitely in a really good spot. Once again, use Pokestop, potentially discarding Boss's Orders before grabbing it out of the deck to guarantee that you have access to. Although, is it available, or is it? Did we see it being prized?
I'm actually not sure. Maybe we could flash the prize cards and take a look. This Forest Seal Stone for Eric going to be played here onto the only eligible target, as you did mention, Pablo, that's Galarian Moltres V. Of course, Forest Seal Stone is a V-Star power, so Eric flips that 1 V-Star power for game to search out any card from the deck here.
So did grab the switch card, put in the discard pile, which should not be there. So is he holding the Boss's Orders? Or where is the Boss's Orders? Did it get discarded? I must have lost track of it.
I don't know. We see the switch card being played here.
Yep, switch card being.
I haven't had a look at Eric's hand. I feel like both these players are holding their cards so close to the chest here when we're trying to view them, right?
Yep, so, yep, 8 damage counters and attachment for turn. What's that last card?
Yeah,
it is.
that is.
Oh,
Okay.
there's the Boss's Orders. There, Jon just like very knowing that the end is pretty much in sight. The fact that Eric
no.
has now 2 Roaring Moons powered up, no damage on the board on them either, and has a pile pad to put back the Boss's Orders. So I guess now it makes sense to use the Pokestop because you were already holding the Boss's Orders, but dang, what
yeah.
a rough draw for Jon
I gotta
here.
say, Eric holding the emotions so well here, I would be so happy.
Yep.
Like, I would be playing that Boss's Orders down and being ecstatic here. And I mean, you could see it on the other end here from Jon, just knowing that he's way too far behind here in this matchup against Roaring Moon. I'll tell you what, Pablo, I'm feeling a lot more confident in my my Roaring Moon pick
I
for
bet.
the weekend.
I mean, so fun fact, you'll enjoy to know that Ross has also been a very big fan of Clough.
Oh, no way.
Clough was the first deck
Yo.
that he was interested in for Paradox Rift,
Ross,
and then he moved
we're best
on
friends,
to
I'm telling
yeah.
you. We just don't know it yet. Let's jump back into this game. Jon Eng here, working with the flower selecting nest ball, gonna go into the Lost Zone, bringing us up to 6. And that's the other thing too, the Lost Zone isn't even super established here for Jon Eng either. I mean, we can at least maybe get a couple more cards in here, but I think Jon is kind of just calculating in his head now, where do I go from here? Looking at the board, asking Eric how many cards are in hand, trying to find a way out of this difficult situation that we're in this game.
I believe that nest ball might be the 7th card in the Lost Zone, if I'm
Oh,
not
really?
mistaken. But yeah, with no Colress available for Jon, yeah, it's just really awkward here. Hasn't been able to accelerate. We see all 3 grass in the discard pile. Gonna put them back with a Super Rod, but that also decreases the chances of Jon finding a Colress next turn. So I'm also very surprised that he's choosing to do this, as he's desperate for a Colress, he's desperate for a Mirage Gate, and now he just put 3 cards back, which is a significant amount when your deck is around 20, 22-ish cards.
Yeah. Yeah, you were talking about thinning, and that is the opposite of thinning,
Yeah.
adding more cards into your deck that you do not want to draw into. It's just going to be a boss's orders here for Jon Eng, bringing up that Mew and taking the knockout with the Cramorant. Spit Innocently has been doing some work here in this game for Jon Eng, and we're over to Eric's side. The Mew is taken out. The Roaring Moons are still here, but that Pokemon catcher's not going to give us a hit this time. Going to be a Tails, but hey, we still have some Roaring Moons on board here, and Eric is continuing with this pressure in this game too. So close to taking a 2-0 against Jon Eng, the regional champion.
I would have loved to see Eric use the Palpad first and put back the boss's orders and Professor's Research into his deck. He does show one Professor's Research, but if you just put back that boss, you give yourself a chance to immediately end the game right here. Now it's still going to come down to Pokemon catchers, which is completely fine, right? But just a small thing where if you've hit boss, you immediately win the game. Why not just give yourself that opportunity? Especially with no Mew EX to continue digging. I think it's going to be important to see this Professor's Research, but the Palpad. This Palpad should have been played before drawing cards with the Radiant Greninja.
So maybe a little bit of mis-sequencing there, but the Palpad going to bring in boss's orders and a Professor Sada.
Yeah, Professor Sada Vitality, I believe. You know what? It's sometimes confusing if players are playing the full art Professor's Research with Professor Sada and the Vitality.
It's tough. It is tough here. Pokemon, you're giving us too many arts to work with, but they're all beautiful, so I forgive you.
All right, so we have Professor's Research looking to hit into another Pokemon catcher on average, right? If it's 50-50, you would end up winning the game. Otherwise, you're still feeling pretty good. Now, one small issue Eric has is that Roaring Moon's Calamity Storm attack does 100 damage, which is not enough to knock out the Cramorant, funnily enough. So it'd be really funny to just see a whiff there. But I think two Pokemon catchers found. First one is Tails.
No, the 5 is haunting us.
One, third Pokemon catcher in a row. Heads, and there's the game.
There is the game. Eric Correa gonna take this down here with a 2-0 victory. Roaring Moon EX taking down Giratina B-Star.